You know, everybody's in an uproar about Sharon Osbourne. And I'm like, well, what did she do? And they're saying she's a racist. And I'm like, let me go and review. Let me go and rewind the tape and see if that picture is true. And wouldn't you know, the picture is complicated. It's blurry. It's not true or false. Well, it might not be the correct lens. And that's why it's blurry. So I, did what an owl does. Rearranged my head. Spun it 360. Took out the old lens. Put in a new lens. And wouldn't you know, the picture was crystal clear. It was almost like it was in 5D. It was a great big beautiful picture. It was a picture of an enabler. You gotta think about the time periods and what shapes people. It's their environment. It's the era. It's the culture. It's everything. And the early years, well, that's important because that shapes you more broadly as a person throughout the rest of your existence. At least your trimester the first time, or the time that you're interacting in time and space. But I don't want to get too technical with you. But anyway, Sharon Osbourne, interesting enabler, but not necessarily the lens of races. It's more about the patriarchy. It's more about the penis. It's more about being submissive and always taking the side of, the patriarchy. If the patriarchy is accused of racism, must defend it. If the patriarchy is accused of sexism, must defend it. If the patriarchy is accused of exuberance, must defend it. If the patriarchy is accused of greed, must defend it. See, this is a full throttle defense of the patriarchy, and not so much racism. Yes, it's definitely there. It's the element. It's the trapdoor underneath the floor. But it's not, it's not overt. It's more covert. The more overt thing is, she's sticking up for a friend. She's sticking up for a man. She didn't take the side of her sister. She said, I'm not going to take the side of my sister here. I'm not going to take the female perspective. I'm going to defend my male friend. That's an enabler. And you can say it has tentacles and other things. But you have to ask yourself, is it easy for somebody to enable? Well, if you look at the era, the generation, the time period, the culture, Sharon Osbourne, she's no spring chicken. She's 65 years old. That's grandmother age. And she's probably seen a lot of things. And those things haven't always been pretty. You got to take that into context. Everybody wants to hammer on somebody. And that's fine. But the people that should be doing the hammering, it's the youth. The old people, they've had their day in the sun. And they did their time. It's not their time anymore. It's the time of the youth. It's young people's time. And whatever they didn't close out, it's up to you to close it out. Because that's the way the cookie crumbles. You can blame people all you want. You can say, she's this, she's that. But people have limits. They can only go so far. It's not Sharon Osbourne's job to finish the job for women's equality, women's liberation, and, women's freedom. Freedom from the patriarchy. Freedom from misogyny. That's going to be a young woman's job. It's going to be the woman who works in the bakeries right now. It's going to be the woman who does childcare work right now. That's going to be your local nurse. That's going to be your teacher. That's her job. Sharon Osbourne has done her job, and the required people, well, to proceed past their limits, well, that could be perceived as being harsh. So we've got to be careful with those kind of things. But we've got to be critical of people too. It's a balance. It's a fine, tight walk. But, it's not Sharon Osbourne's job anymore. It's your job. And don't shirk your responsibility or try to, well, put more on people than what they can bear. It's a young person's game now. And, well, hopefully the youth can finish the job, because the greatest unfinished work of the 21st century is clearly women's liberation and black liberation. And those are the things that the youth, well, you got to get done. And the Purple People have, well, I have full faith in the youth. They'll get the job done.